you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And back here, I'm Jaime and Fuego.
That's right. We are maintaining our social distancing. We are still 6 feet apart, even though we are here at Horror Show Studios. We wanted to make sure we could keep up on our Patreon content and other such things. This isn't technically a Patreon review. This is a friend request review who also happened to provide the film. This is by friend of the show, Samuel Glass, who
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Vegas, baby,
Yeah.
Vegas, who's beat death himself already. He's gotten through some amazingly tough health stuff, but he is still around to send us
So
movies
much respect,
to
man.
broaden our horizons. Yes, to him and Bear. Hope both of you guys are doing excellent. But he sent us a movie that we've been sitting on for a while. He sent us this a while back.
And it's because we both probably had major reservations about this movie, having seen stuff like Serbian film and, I mean, Autopsy
Serbian
of Jane
film
Doe
and-
and stuff of that nature. But I think this kind of surprised us. Is
I
that
agree.
a fair estimation?
Well, a Serbian film surprised us as well. We
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
were fans of that ultimately
True.
as well. So what we're talking about, guys, what could be as gross as a Serbian film? Well, it's called The Corpse of Anna Fritz. And I read the back of this movie, and I'm going to do the same right now. I'm going to read it to you guys so
Please
you
do.
knew what we had waiting for us, which is why it took me so long, because I'm not a fan of this kind of thing, but
And also a very low-budge looking DVD, by the way.
Indeed.
So that doesn't
clearly it was
encourage
all printed off
Yeah.
in the same sheet.
It does
you know.
not encourage things, you know.
mean,
It's
not
not
that
like
they all want
major
that way,
studio
but-
work or anything of that nature. So we were leery.
Yeah, indeed. So it says, but we trust Samuel. The last thing he sent us previous to this was Phantom of the Paradise soundtrack. And
I love that
thus we
movie.
watched the movie.
I love that
well,
movie.
he did. He loves it. I haven't seen it still.
Yeah.
I do still really want to, so
Yeah.
I just need to get around to it. But he tends to send good movies, and this, I tell you what, it's another one in a line of great recommendations from Sam.
Truly.
Quite frankly, this is a great movie, but let me read it to you, and this will maybe explain why it took so long to get to it. Anna Fritz, a beautiful Spanish actress and one of the most desired women in the world, has suddenly died. Her body is transferred into a city morgue where a withdrawn young orderly, Pau, becomes fascinated with her lifeless cadaver. When Pau sends a picture of the dead celebrity to his two friends, they show up at the morgue for a glimpse at the beautiful starlet. As the whiskey bottles and Coke packets empty, the three friends decide this is an opportunity they can't pass up to get up close and personal with the corpse of Anna Fritz.
And the funny explanation about all of this is that it's almost an over-explanation because of the fact that you don't have anything of the friends corresponding initially or anything like that. It's not like they come because they
Well, no,
know
it's still before the
her
title.
corpse is there.
We
Yeah.
see he takes a picture of the corpse, and we don't see what he does with it.
True. But I mean, he's not just like parading around about it or brandishing to some ridiculous regard or whatever. And
Does have a lot of festival notoriety on the back, though.
Yeah, and I think it was South by Southwest, if I'm not mistaken. It was either that or TIFF or, maybe various others. It's in some kind of bogarting in here. I will say that
SSXW,
yeah. Overall impressions, Samuel was very impressed with this film. It veered into territory I did not initially expect, especially having seen films that deal with corpses and men being weird with beautiful dead women. This was not what I thought it was going to be. It still upset me, and I was still horrified at certain choices that characters made, but the fact that it kept it fresh, it was well acted, and low budge, solid horror, man, or like thriller, I guess you would probably say more so for this.
It definitely is. It definitely is low budget, but it, as gross as the subject matter is, or at least starts off.
Yeah.
It's still, I would still very much recommend this movie to people.
It does
I
its
really
own
would.
thing.
As long as you can get past the conceit, which, yes, they allude to necrophilia.
Yeah.
This movie does have, well, it does portray necrophilia. But let
have
me
to
say,
dance around that topic,
let's get
obviously.
into the
Yeah,
story
yeah.
of it, because you
Yeah.
need to know the story to know why you can still watch this movie despite the necrophilia angle.
Yeah, I did watch this with Catherine, and she was horrified and almost wanted to walk away. So,
Did she stick through?
She did, but most female friends of mine, and I mean a lot of ladies that I know, they would be so unsettled by just the setting and
Well, 100%.
alone. Yeah, man. I mean, it's as disgusting as anything imaginable. So as men, this is tough for us to talk about this particular film.
Yeah, so
But-
basically, to put it as kind of not drag it out as much as possible,
Yeah.
two technically of the three friends have at it and go for it. The first one, nothing bad happens, but as the second one, the main guy, Powell, the orderly himself, as he does it, her eyes open, and it turns out that she's not actually dead. She's just been slipped something where she's completely paralyzed and has and looked like a dead body for a long time, but now she's starting to come out of it, and she comes out of it in the middle of one of the guys doing his thing. So yes, it's not technically the setup, but it's not much better because it's still the R word that I hesitate to say because YouTube will probably demonetize us.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is now what happens is as she wakes up, then they're left with, like, the guy freaks out, and now they're left with a moral dilemma. They're like, okay, well, we got to go tell everyone that she's okay, but she's now woken up in the middle of this horrific act. So they're like, well, if we go get help, she's going to tell on us. We can't let her tell on us. So there's now a struggle between the friends. There's one that's extremely against doing anything bad. There's one that's extremely for making sure she never talks. And then there's one that's kind of in the middle. And that becomes the movie.
Yeah.
It's these guys struggling with what to do while Anna Fritz herself is starting to come out of whatever it is that she was in, and she starts to have dialogue and talk to the guys and stuff like that. And it's just such a messed up start of a movie that where it goes, it's like you can't help but stay wrapped with attention to just find out how it ends. So, I mean, story-wise, it's gross, obviously, subject matter, but it's the story that we're telling, and it is an engaging horror story. Fuego, your thoughts on the story?
Yeah, the gross initial aspect is thankfully rather brief, and not as graphic as it could have been. So that was a relief, thank God. But it's not supernatural, and that is the one thing that I was initially anticipating. And yet, I even mentioned to Catherine, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if it just turns into these guys like trying to cover up like some of the dumb nastiness that they are doing with this particular actress, and then it pulls a turn and it takes its own way, which I appreciated the hell out of. And there is one character in particular I despised his guts, man. He was absolute trash. And he's definitely the one that you were rooting against in every possible capacity. But I mean, as far as self-contained horror and telling a story that is unique and not playing upon those sort of, okay, where's the ghost, the like spooky revenge, like whatever.
That's what I thought it was going to do. Yeah,
same, man. And it was a very real world horror story, like the real horrors of real people. And I appreciated that because there are horrible individuals in this real world that, faced with this sort of temptation, would do the same goddamn thing. It's so bad. Yeah.
Now, some people were going to say that I spoiled the movie by giving as much as I did, but frankly, if we just said it was about 3 necrophiliacs, you're probably not going to want to watch that movie.
It is very
so we had
early
to explain that there's more to it than that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate
and
the
it's
fact
how that plays out that's the actual story.
Yeah.
And trust me, that's engaging enough as it is. And it makes it a little less gross. You don't feel quite as gross as you did starting the movie as the whole thing plays out.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm glad to have it in our collection now, because it's definitely one. It's like I have a Serbian film because I had to buy it for a Patreon review. Luckily, we didn't have to purchase this because Sam sent it to us, but I'm glad I have it because it's one that if you have a friend that's a horror fan that can handle certain things, that has not seen, let alone heard of this, because we had not, and I'm sure a lot of you have not, it's worth recommending on that level. If you can handle the subject matter, this is a low-budget horror movie that you can't tell the budget. Like, you legitimately, the budget goes out the window because it does everything that it needs to do. It gets you to the morgue, and then it stays in the morgue in the surrounding areas of the hospital, and that's all it needs to do. That's all it needs to do. It doesn't need a big budget. It did not need any more money than it got, and it did a fantastic job with what it had.
It did, and it was the brilliance of this sort of storytelling that they were trying to put forward. And I mean, the lady that I was watching it with, she was like, oh, this is like Autopsy of Jane Doe, right? And it was refreshing not to have a rehash of something similar, to have something distinctive and different. And I appreciated the fact that it veered more into the like dramatic thriller, like, you know, situational horror in comparison. And who's gonna die? Is she gonna survive? Like, you know, what is going to happen with these men that abused her in a disgusting manner? And there was one time in particular where you think that one who was having remorse.
Yeah, careful. We don't want to ruin.
I know.
The way
That's
things
where-
play out, it's
that's where-
just, it's so
it is
crazy.
very compelling.
It's unfortunate and compelling.
Yeah, it is very compelling. So that's why I had to hold off.
Yeah.
Thank you for like,
It's
stepping on my
trust me,
heels.
It's
there, man.
worth. It's worth everyone experiencing this movie for what it is.
No.
If it doesn't sound like it's going to be too much for you based on what we described, again, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's aggressive, but
Initially,
Last House
though.
on the Left,
Initially, though.
I Spit on Your Grave, those
Yeah.
have graphic rape scenes as well.
Yeah,
So it's not any worse than those movies, except for the fact that she's supposed to be dead when it happens. So
it is a Spanish
if you can
language
handle that,
film.
guys, and it's, yes, it is foreign, it's Spanish language, but it's so worth it. If you're a horror fan, this is a horror movie. This is a horrific movie. This is not a gory movie. This is not a spook movie. This is not a slasher movie. This is a horrific circumstances movie, which I think there are plenty of that some people might say, oh, it's more of a thriller, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit.
Which
this is
I
a
even said
horrifying
myself.
situation.
I know.
But it's still a horrifying situation.
It is the most
that's what
frightening of
I
all.
determine to be horror movies.
Yeah.
If it can be considered a horrific situation for the characters in the film, that's a horror movie to me. So, I don't know. Acting? I mean,
Acting's terrific,
I think it's
honestly.
terrific too. It's 4 core characters, and they all do a great job with what they have.
Yeah, we have the major douchebaggery of our guy who is like all about like, hey, let's look at this lady, you know, so on and so forth. He is the one who knows the friend works there, and he wants to like at least.
Yeah, but the friend isn't clear conscienced either. He's a little bit grosser than they even realize before they walk into the morgue.
He makes an admittance, and it's no bueno. There was really only one moral, just kind of compass that brings things back, and you know things go the way they do for him.
Things
you know,
went
without
Walking
spoiling.
Dead for the usual way things go for moral compasses on The Walking Dead. It's kind of similar.
I would suppose.
But we're not ruining anything. It's not exactly so. Just
But they're all
watch
good,
it,
man.
trust me. Yeah.
And I mean, especially when she like wakes up and she is like kind of groggily returning to coherence.
She's great.
She
She's
is
a fantastic.
terrific. She is beautiful. She is a slightly older, like Spanish actress, but she has this notoriety that they talk about in the like initial credits about how she's on red carpets and she's so beautiful and all this other stuff. Women envy her, men want her, and so on. And she fits the portrait. She is absolutely beautiful, and the desperation that she finds herself within is truly harrowing and scary as all hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
messed
I mean,
up, man.
the cinematography, the sound, the effects, all of it is appropriate. There's nothing that's really like, oh man, the shots. Some of the shots are really disturbing, I will say. The one that this cover alludes to is one of the most disturbing shots in the movie. But overall, I mean, the cinematography is good. The sound design is appropriately gross and frightening at times. But overall, it's a really well-made movie. Even though I can't point to specific things within each of those tiny categories that that are great, the movie itself is just such a cohesive well-made experience that, I don't know, I really recommend it.
I am 100% with you, man. It's a very sans score, you know? There's not like a constant thread of music or anything that's gonna, you know, either indulge emotion or induce anything or whatever. But I mean, still, it felt very cold and just like isolated, like you would feel in a morgue, you know?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
it totally embodied that. That's for damn sure.
That's true. That's true. So, guys, I mean, ultimately, it is a worthwhile experience. If you can get your hands on the Corpse of Anna Fritz, I'm not sure how. I don't think there's a Blu-ray. I think it might just be on DVD.
It actually streams.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah, somewhere on there. I want to say maybe Tubi, because Tubi is trying to challenge Shudder for the streaming of weird, like, obscure horror. But yeah, just Google Anna Fritz, Corpse of Anna Fritz, and yes, you will find the destination to watch that, which is
Indeed.
cool.
And thank you again to Samuel for sending it to us, because
Yeah, man, we love
ended up
it.
being another great recommendation. Next up, we have Rondo, I believe, that he's waiting on. So
Yes, which is
we'll get to
like
that
more
next.
of like a Tarantino shoot 'em up, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so we got to do that one next. Again, I don't know why it takes so long to get to some of his stuff, but it always ends up being quality. So I appreciate the patience, Samuel, and the recommendations.
Yeah.
Guys, check it out, The Corpse of Anna Fritz. If you can handle it, it's worth your time. So thank you very much for watching. If you guys want to become a patron and request movies like this that we might not have even heard of before now, click that link and you can become a patron to do so. We can also do commentaries or other fun stuff. So go to that page and check it all out. See if any of it tickles your fancy.
Woo!
Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias a Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, guys,
Stay scared of being 6 feet from each other.